Right. Well, good to see you today. Man, we're starting to gradually move out of the dog days of summer. Royals have won 7 games in a row. Like, miracles do happen. We've been in a series called Walking with the Mystics. And we started with Francis of Assisi from Italy. And then we went to Julian of Norwich from England. Last Sunday, we did Teresa of Avila, and John of the Cross. And while I was doing that message last week, Stacy Nichols remembered that she had been to Avila, and she had pictures actually. Let's show that real quick. So this is Teresa of Avila's, the chapel. I don't call that a chapel, but anyway, the cathedral almost, right? For her, that's the inside of it, and then that's a statue of John of the Cross and that's from Spain. So when I was talking last week, she was looking at her pictures from visiting there a few years ago. So thanks for sharing that, Stacy. Today, and she's from Spain, today we're going to move to the Middle East. How many of you know who the best-selling poet in the United States of America has been almost year after year after year after year for pretty much the whole 250 years of America's history? Did you know that, or did you just guess?
It was an educated guess.
Okay, because you saw my post, right? So there's a poet named Rumi, all right? So I'm going to give a little bit of introduction to Rumi today, and I'm going to read a few of his sayings and poems. But before we do that, I want to sort of build the context a little bit for Rumi. First of all, I'm curious, pop culture-wise, Madonna, of all people, you know, she got into the mystics quite many years ago, got into the Jewish mystics and some of the Muslim mystics. She actually did an album where she composed music and then read Rumi's poetry in one of her albums. So Rumi does pop up in pop culture from time to time. Who knows what the biggest #1 selling downstreaming show on Netflix has been? Demon Hunters. K-pop Demon Hunters. It came out last year, 2025. It's had almost 350 million watches. And it has it's a cartoon. It has 3 female characters in it who are singers, and their songs go out. Their songs of hope, love, and courage go out and defeats the evil and the demons that are in the world. And guess what name one of those singers is? Rumi. You got it. And they actually even produced a #1 hit on the Billboard's Golden is the #1 hit, but they had several hits from that movie. So that was just last year. Now here's the thing. How many of you know that the Old Testament and the New Testament, the Bible that we read, is a thoroughly Jewish book? Right? You know this, right? So what's fascinating is that in that book, sometimes you have an extreme focus on the insiders, and the insiders always get it right. But in that same book, there's also stories where the outsider gets it right. How many of you knew that? So remember when Moses led the people out of Egypt, and they're in the wilderness for 40 years? The book of Numbers is in the first 5 books of the Old Testament, or the Torah, as the Hebrew Bible would call that. And do you remember when Balak, the king of Moab, wanted to curse the Israelites as they were moving through their land, the Moabite land? And you remember he sent the prophet Balaam to curse the Israelites. Balaam was a Moab prophet from outside the nation of Israel. So he went under Balak's orders to curse Israel, and he never could do it. Instead, if you read numbers like 23, 24, and 25, what you realize is that he ended up prophesying all this beautiful stuff over Israel. So Balaam gets it right. It's so fascinating. And one of the things that he prophesies about is a star that's going to come out of Jacob and a scepter from Israel. So here is an outsider prophesying about a star that a Messiah is going to indicate, right? So flash forward all those weeks. I'm not sure what that was, Ben, but anyway, flash forward all those centuries to the story of Christmas and Jesus' birth. What led the wise men from the east? It was the star over Bethlehem, right? And so most people connect that star that Balaam prophesied about that would come out of Jacob as the star that led the wise men from the east to come and check out Jesus. Guess what? There were insiders at the birth of Jesus who weren't quite getting it. Surprise, surprise. But there's these outsiders from the east. By the way, they were not Jewish. They were not Christians didn't even exist at this time, right? So they were not any of those things. They were probably astronomers, magicians, and came from Zoroastrian or who knows, maybe even Hindu or Buddhist in influence. They were from the Far East. But they saw the sign in the sky, and they were people who saw God working through nature. I'm not sure what's happening there, Ben, but they saw God working through nature. And then they followed that, discerned that, took them all the way to Bethlehem. And there at Bethlehem, they worship Jesus. They offer gifts. And they're non-Christian followers of Jesus. Do you know I've been all around the world and I've been amazed to find out. I grew up Midwest Southern Baptist, right? We thought we had everything right, okay? And but as I've traveled around the world, I've met Muslim followers of Jesus, Hindu followers of Jesus, Buddhist followers of Jesus. I've met Jewish followers. I've met people from every tradition that would call themselves followers of Jesus and love the teachings and the pathway that Jesus talks about. So in the Bible, that becomes true as well. There's a whole book in the Hebrew Bible that talks about an outsider named Ruth. Guess what? She married Boaz, and Ruth, the outsider from Moab, where Balaam came from, is in the lineage of Jesus in Matthew's gospel. And then if you get to Jesus' teaching, Jesus didn't encounter a lot of people that were non-Jewish, but when he did encounter a non-Jewish person, he never condemned them. In fact, he would raise them up as examples of people who followed in faith, like the Syrophoenician woman, like the Roman centurion, and like one of his most famous teachings, the parable of the Good Samaritan. All right? So the outsider many times gets it right. I would say this. I've probably learned more from my outsider friends who follow Jesus, who didn't grow up in a Christian tradition, than I have maybe learned from my Christian friends. Because it gives me different perspective and insights to the same teaching. So my point is, we need to surround ourselves with people from all over the world, from different cultures, from different backgrounds that look different, that act different, that have different experiences, and we can learn from everybody. So this brings me to a wise man from the east, only about 1,000 years after Jesus. And his name was Rumi. We call him Rumi. He had a very long name. I won't say the whole name. Rumi was born in what we'd call today northern Afghanistan. His family traveled from there to what we'd call today Iraq. He even spent time in Damascus, where Paul journeyed, and that's in Syria today, Damascus, Syria. But he ended up settling in central Turkey, what we'd call modern-day Turkey, which is where the Apostle Paul was from. Paul was from what we'd call modern-day Turkey, the Apostle Paul. Rumi was going to be a Muslim scholar. He grew up in a Muslim family. He was going to be a Muslim scholar. But in Turkey, there was a guy named Shams Tabrizi who visited the city that Rumi was living in. And in that encounter, Rumi spent about 40 days or so with this person, and it transformed his life. This person was from the mystical tradition in the Muslim faith called Sufism. And this guy was a whirling dervish. Anybody know about whirling dervishes? 1. Anybody else? 2, 3. Anybody else? Whirling dervishes. These are mystics. Okay, so remember the mystics, number 1, emphasize union with the divine. Number 2, emphasize the centrality of love. And number 3, emphasize service to all creation and humanity, particularly those who are marginalized, outcast, oppressed, poor, those that are on the outskirts. We encounter Jesus. Jesus taught us when we do the love service to the least of these, right? So those are really the 3 core things about mystics. By the way, that would make Jesus a mystic, all right? So think about that. Remember what Jesus taught in John 17? He said, he prayed this right before he went to the cross. This was the prayer he prayed right before he went to the cross. He says, I pray that all people would be one as we are one. He says, I pray that they will be one just as you and I are one. He was talking about his relationship to God. As you are in me and I am in you, and may they be in us so that all the world will find hope and faith and love. This is the prayer of Jesus right before he went to the cross, that we would be one just as he and the Father were, and that we would all be one. When Jesus asked, what's the great commandment? Out of all the 600 plus commandments in the Torah, he said, well, the lens is what? Love. Love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. So Rumi encountered this whirling dervish, and the whirling dervish were mystics who had a dance that they did to encounter God. How many of you would like to encounter God through dance? Is there a better way? The dance of love, the dance of beauty, the dance of creativity, the dance of the universe. So I want to show you a quick video that will show you a few whirling dervishes, all right? Here's a video about the
13th
whirling
century,
dervishes.
the Turkish city of Konya. The Mevlevi order are a religious Sufi sect known for their centuries-old mesmerizing and mythical Sufi dance ceremony, in which their whirling spins help them to reach a state of nirvana. The whirling dervish ceremony, known as the Sema, started as a form of meditation by Jalaluddin Rumi, the famous Sufi Muslim mythic and poet in the 13th century. To perform the ceremony, dancers wear long white robes with full skirts, which symbolize the shrouds of their egos. On their heads sit tall conical felt hats ranging from brown to grey to black, depending on their sex. These represent the tombstones of their egos. Over the robes, the dancers wear long dark cloaks, which embody the wearer's worldly life and are cast off during the ceremony. When the dancer is finally wearing only his long white robe, he is assumed to be without fault and ready to start the mesmerizing complex whirls that define the Sema. The dancers fast for many hours before the ceremony. When the ceremony starts, they turn in rhythmic patterns using the left foot to propel their bodies around the right foot with their eyes open but unfocused. Their whirling is fueled by accompanying music, which consists of a singer, a flute player, a kettle drummer, and a cymbal player.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard that, but they start out with the black robe, kind of representing the world. They strip that off, leaving the world behind, and then they're in the white robe, and they do these circle dances. Now, here's the crazy thing. The Greek fathers, like from the Greek Orthodox Church, they always taught that the Trinity was a circle dance of love. The Father, the Son, and the Spirit. And the Spirit is always feminine. In the Old Testament and the New Testament, Ruach and Pneuma are feminine. So God is all of that, right? Male, female, and everything else. God encompasses all reality. And so the great fathers of the faith called the Trinity a circle dance of love that exemplified the love in all of the universe. Just a little science for you. How many of you know that when you go to every atom in your body, the subatomic particles in your body do something called spin? Electrons, neutrons, quarks, they spin. The very smallest level, there's something that they recognize as a spin. Your body is spinning. Every atom in your body is spinning. This planet that we live on is spinning. It's rotating around its axis. This planet is spinning around the sun, and this galaxy that this is in is spinning. The whole galaxy is spinning as the universe is expanding. Maybe there's something about reality in a circle dance of love throughout the whole universe. Let me read you a few Rumi poems, okay? Rumi poems. Here's one. A secret turning in us makes the universe turn. Head unaware of feet, and feet of head. Neither cares, they keep turning. There is the dance of love that is going on throughout the universe. When we enter into union with God, we're entering into this beautiful union and dance of love. So I love this. He had this encounter with this whirling dervish. They spent about 40 days together. Then Shams disappears. And it's at this point that Rumi switches from becoming a scholar in the Muslim world to becoming a mystic and a Sufi and the whirling dervishes. And he really popularized this in Turkey, and it spread around the world. And out of that comes a huge amount of poetry and writing and song. For the rest of Rumi's life, he was one of the most prolific poets that we know about. And to this day, his poetry echoes through this planet that we live on. It's pretty amazing. And his core ideas are union with God, love as the centrality of everything, and then service to all of creation. So here's a few Rumi quotes that I want you to reflect on here for a moment. Let's just use these like we're reflecting, pondering some wisdom from the East. A wise man from the East. He said, "Stop acting so small. You are the universe in a static motion. Your body, your atoms, this planet, this universe is pretty crazy to think about that." Here's one I love. The wound is the place where the light enters you. He talked a lot about pain, but it was always engulfed in love and in beauty and in joy in the long run, right? Another one, let your life be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. For Rumi, all things centered in this union with the divine and love. He said, what you are seeking is seeking you. I love that. Of all of our seeking, of all of our journeys, of all of our adventures, what we're longing for is longing for us. The kingdom of God is within you, Jesus taught. And if you think about it, we search for God as the pearl of great price, Jesus taught. But guess whose pearl is God's pearl of great price? It's you. What you are seeking is seeking you. Another one, when you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. The Apostle Paul said the kingdom of God is really about justice and peace and joy. Romans 15. If I love myself, I love you. If I love you, I love myself. All of this universe is wrapped up in love. And how we love the least or the insignificant is just as important as any other love that we share. Love is the universe dancing in motion. Here's another one. Lovers find secret places inside this violent world where they make transactions with beauty. So all the violence, all the hatred, all the evil, go find joy, love, and beauty and live for that in the midst of all of it. Jesus taught us to walk in love and in nonviolent love and to seek that in every situation that we can find. Even loving our enemies, Jesus said. Here's another short poem. By the way, he had books and books of poetry and long poems and epic poems. I'm not going to try to introduce you all that. But if you are seeking, seek with joy. For we live in the kingdom of joy. Do not give your heart to anything else, but to the love of those who are clear joy. Do not stray into the neighborhood of despair, for there are hopes. They are real. They exist. Do not go in the direction of darkness. I tell you, suns exist. So yeah, we experience darkness, we encounter pain, we encounter suffering, but we don't want to camp out there, right? We want to begin to search for love and beauty and creativity even in the darkest of places. Don't camp there, just journey through it and heal through it. One of my favorites here is this one. This is a very famous little line from Rumi. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Now, think about this for a minute. Jesus said something that I think has been misused and mistaught through the years. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Think about this for a minute. A lot of people have emphasized that as you have to have the right doctrine, the right dogma. If you believe these 10 things, then that's the truth. Now, how many of you know how many Protestant denominations, not counting Catholics, not counting Greek Orthodox, how many of you know how many Protestant denominations exist in the world today? About 40,000. And most of them think they're right. I think that Jesus' way, if you think about everything he taught, 1, union with the divine. 2, love was the centrality of everything that he did. He interpreted the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, and everything through the lens of love. The way is love. And the way of creating love for all humanity is through service, and especially service to all creation, especially to the least of these. Remember the prisoner, the outcast, the one that's naked and that needs to be clothed, the one that's suffering from all kinds of poverty. And that's the heart that Jesus said. We encounter the divine as we serve and bring love to everybody we're around. So what's the way? What's the truth? What's the life? It is union with God. It is the way of love, and it is service to others. If people around the world are following that path, they're following the way of Jesus. If you just dig deep into the teachings of Jesus, that's what Jesus taught us to live. So don't think that you have to get 15 doctrinal statements correct and then find the one out of the 40,000 Protestant denominations, or maybe the Catholics, or maybe the Greek Orthodox, and then find the right ones that are teaching the real truth, and then that's the way of Jesus, you've missed what? And Jesus taught this all the time. They strain over these little insignificant things and fight over that stuff. All the while, they miss love. They miss service. They miss devotion to God in love. That's the real heresy, is when we miss the main point. So, I think Rumi got some things right. And by the way, when I've hung out with Muslims all around the Middle East, the Quran teaches that Jesus was virgin born, that Jesus was a prophet, that Jesus is coming again. They believe that Jesus did miracles. And I've never met a Muslim in anywhere in the world that I couldn't have a really fun, interesting conversation about Jesus with. And I've done that in Syria, and I've done that in Lebanon, and I've done that in Jordan, and I've done that in Egypt, and I've done that all around the Middle East. And it's a beautiful thing to sit and talk with people about the way of love, about union with God, about the divine as it spins everywhere. So, Sam, I'm going to invite you up. I want to read that last quote one more time. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. How many of you want to meet me there? Anybody? Any takers? So, we're going to do a little song of reflection from another famous person from the Muslim world, Yusuf, or Cat Stevens.